Hello students, in the last class you have seen the motor pathway, the genrosensory pathway. So today we are going to study the special sensory pathway, that is the auditory pathway. Now what is auditory pathway? So all of you know the auditory pathway is responsible for hearing. It transmits the stimulus which is responsible for the hearing from the internal ear to the auditory area of cerebral cortex. So auditory pathway transmits the stimulus from the internal ear. In the internal ear there are receptors. There are receptors for hearing. So the auditory pathway transmits the stimulus from the receptors of internal ear, that is the organ of corti, to the auditory area of cerebral cortex. Now you have learned the anatomy of internal ear, and the main function of the internal ear are hearing and the maintenance of equilibrium. The nerve which is responsible for these functions is eighth cranial nerve, that is the vestibulocochlear nerve. The cochlear part of this nerve is responsible for hearing, and the vestibular part is responsible for the maintenance of equilibrium. So to understand the auditory pathway, you need to know the anatomy of the internal ear. So the specific learning objectives of today's lecture is to know the anatomy of internal ear, especially the organ of corti, then to study the auditory pathway in detail, and to know the clinical anatomy concerned with the auditory pathway. Now all of you know the internal ear is located in the petrous part of the temporal bone. Now here the petrous part of the temporal bone is situated in the middle cranial fossa. So the internal ear is situated within the petrous part of the temporal bone, and this internal ear consists of two labyrinths, that is the bony labyrinth, outer bony labyrinth, and inner membranous labyrinth. So the internal ear consists of outer bony labyrinth and internal membranous labyrinth. Now this bony labyrinth is made up of intercommunicating bony cavities. Now in this picture, the purple shaded area, this purple color is the bony labyrinth, and the blue colored areas indicates the membranous labyrinth. So the bony labyrinth is made up of intercommunicating bony cavities, and this bony labyrinth is filled with perilymph. It is a fluid, so this bony labyrinth is filled with perilymph. This bony labyrinth has three parts. This is the cochlea, then this is the vestibule, this rectangular part is the vestibule, and then there are three semicircular canals. So the bony labyrinth consists of three parts: the cochlea, vestibule, and three semicircular canals. And within this bony labyrinth there is membranous labyrinth, which is blue in color. So this membranous labyrinth is also intercommunicating sacs or ducts. So the membranous labyrinth is also intercommunicating sacs and ducts, and it has three parts, that is the cochlear duct. So within the cochlea there is a cochlear duct. So this cochlear duct is a part of membranous labyrinth. So within the cochlea there is cochlear duct. Within the vestibule there is saccule. This is the saccule and this is the utricle. So within the vestibule there is saccule and utricle. So saccule and utricle represent the membranous labyrinth, and within the semicircular canals there are semicircular ducts. There are three semicircular ducts: the anterior, posterior and lateral. So semicircular canals are the bony labyrinth, while the semicircular ducts represent the membranous labyrinth. So internal ear has bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth. Bony labyrinth consists of cochlea, vestibule and semicircular canals, while membranous labyrinth consists of cochlear duct, then the saccule and utricle within the vestibule and semicircular ducts within the semicircular canals. So today we'll concentrate on the cochlea, then the organ of hearing, that is the organ of corti, and the cochlear nerve. Now you have already learned the structure of cochlea. So we'll just briefly go through it. The cochlea is conical in shape. Now here this picture shows the cochlea, which is conical in shape and it resembles the shell of snail. It shows an apex. This is the apex, and this apex is called as cupula, and it has a base. This base is directed at the bottom of internal acoustic meatus. So this cochlea has an apex which is called as cupula, and this cupula is directed forwards and laterally towards the middle ear, and the base lies at the bottom of internal acoustic meatus. Now this cochlea consists of a central pillar. So in the center there is again a conical structure, a conical pillar that is called as modulus, and around the modulus you can see there are cochlear canals. So these are the cochlear canals which run spirally around the modulus. And these cochlear canals, there are around 2 and 3/4 tons of cochlear canal around the modulus. So cochlea consists of centrally placed modulus, and around the modulus you can see 2 and 3/4 tons of cochlear canals. This is the bony canals. Now what is modulus? Modulus is again, it is a bony labyrinth. It is a bone and it is conical in shape. It forms the central pillar of the cochlea. And this modulus, it resembles the shape of the screw. So it has an apex. This modulus has an apex which is directed towards the cupula, and it has a base which is directed towards the internal acoustic meatus. Now this base is perforated by many foramina, and that is called as the tractus spiralis foraminosus. So the base of the modulus is perforated by many foramina, which is called as Tractus spiralis foraminosus. And through this foramina, the number of fibers of cochlear nerve emerge out. Okay, So the cochlear nerve, the fibers of cochlear nerve, they lie within the modulus, they lie in the modulus, and then these fibers, they emerge out through the tractus spiralis foraminosus. These are the foramina which are situated at the base of the modulus. Now in this picture, it is clearly seen, this is the cochlea. You can see the cochlear canals, and in the center of the cochlea, you can see the modulus. So this is the modulus. This modulus has an apex and a base, and this base consists of many foramina, and through this foramina the fibers of cochlear nerve emerge out. Now the modulus has spiral laminae. So in this picture you can see this screw has spiral laminae. So similarly the modulus has spiral laminae, and these spiral laminae, they project into the cochlear canal. So in this picture it is clearly seen, this is the modulus, and this modulus has spiral laminae. So this is one spiral laminae, this is another spiral laminae. So these spiral laminae, they project into the cochlear canal. This is the cochlear canal. So these spiral laminae, they project into the cochlear canal. So they extend around halfway of the cochlear canal. Now again, this is again the coronal section of the cochlea. This is the coronal section of the cochlea, showing the cross sections, cut sections of the cochlear canals. And in the center, this is the modulus. And this modulus consists of fibers of cochlear nerve. And these fibers, they arise from the organ of Corti. So there are multiple fibers arise from the organ of Corti, and these fibers join to form the cochlear nerve. So cochlear nerve lies in the modulus, and these fibers, they emerge from the foramina, that is the tractus spiralis foraminosus, which is situated at the base of the modulus. Now we have seen the modulus has spiral laminae, and these spiral laminae, they project into the cochlear canal. Now in this picture, this is the cross section of the cochlear canal. You can see the cross section of cochlear canal, and here this is the modulus, and this modulus has a spiral lamina. So this spiral lamina extends about halfway across the canal, across the cochlear canal. Then this spiral lamina, it splits into two lips. The upper lip is called as the vestibular lip, and the lower lip is called as the tympanic lip. So the spiral lamina of the modulus splits into two lips. The upper lip, which is called as the vestibular lip, and the lower lip is called as the tympanic lip. Now the vestibular membrane, now here this is the vestibular membrane, is attached to the vestibular lip. So the vestibular membrane is attached to the vestibular lip, while the basilar membrane, this is the basilar membrane, is attached to the tympanic lip. Clear? So the spiral lamina splits into two lips, the vestibular lip and the tympanic lip. The vestibular membrane is attached to the vestibular lip, while the basilar membrane is attached to the tympanic lip. So these two membranes, the vestibular membrane and the basilar membrane, these two membranes, they divide the canal into three parts. Above vestibular membrane, this part of the canal is called as the scala vestibuli. So above vestibular membrane, this part is called as the scala vestibuli. Then below basilar membrane, this part of the canal is called as the scala tympani. Okay, so below basilar membrane, this part of the canal is called as the scala tympani. While between vestibular lip and the basilar lip, this part of the canal is called as the scala media, which is also known as cochlear duct. Okay. So between the vestibular membrane and basilar membrane, this part, this triangular space is called as the scala media, which is also called as cochlear duct. So this cochlear duct is a part of the membranous labyrinth. This whole cochlear canal is a part of the bony labyrinth, and within the bony labyrinth, the membranous labyrinth is represented by the cochlear duct. So this cochlear duct is bounded above by the vestibular membrane, below by the basilar membrane, and laterally by the outer wall of the cochlear canal. And the spiral organ of the corti is situated within this cochlear duct. So this organ of corti, this is the organ of corti. It is present within the cochlear duct and it rests on the basilar membrane. Now we'll see the structure of the organ of corti. This organ of corti has highly modified cells. So it consists of rod cells, hair cells, Dieter cells, Hensen cells, Claudius cells, and there is one membrane called as membrana tectorium. So these are the different parts of the organ of corti. Now rod cells, there are inner rod cells and the outer rod cells. So here this is the modulus. So towards the modulus, this is the inner rod cell and this is the outer rod cells. So inner and outer rod cells, they are arranged in single row and are attached to the basilar membrane. And these inner and outer rod cells, they are inclined. They are inclined and they meet each other, and therefore these two cells, the inner and outer rod cell, they enclose a space, and this space is called as tunnel of corti. So the inner and outer rod cells enclose a space which is called as tunnel of corti, and this tunnel of corti is filled with cortilymph. So the tunnel of corti is filled with cortilymph, which is similar to perilymph. Now in the previous picture we have seen this is the scala vestibuli, this is the cochlear duct, and this is the scala tympani. Now scala vestibuli and scala tympani are filled with perilymph, while the cochlear duct, which is a membranous labyrinth, this cochlear duct is filled with endolymph. Remember, the scala vestibuli and the scala tympani, these are the bony labyrinth, they are filled with perilymph, and the cochlear duct, which is a membranous labyrinth, is filled with the endolymph. And this organ of corti within the organ of Corti, this space between the inner rod cell and the outer rod cell, this space is called as the tunnel of Corti, which is filled with the cortilymph, and this cortilymph is similar to perilymph. Then on the inner aspect, medial to the inner rod cell, there is inner hair cell, and lateral to the outer rod cell, there are outer hair cells. So these are the hair cells. The inner hair cells are piriform shape and are arranged in single row, while the outer rod cells are the elongated cylindrical in shape and they are arranged in multiple rows. They are arranged around 3 to 4 rows. Now both these inner and outer rod cells have stereocilia. They show stereocilia on the apical surface, and these stereocilia are embedded on the membrane, a gelatinous membrane, which is called as tectorial membrane or membrana tectoria. So on the apical surface, the inner and outer hair cells have stereocilia, while at the base, these hair cells have synaptic buttons for afferent and efferent fibers of cochlear nerve. So at the base, the hair cells have synaptic buttons for afferent and efferent fibers of cochlear nerve. Now apart from the rod cells and hair cells, there are supporting cells. And the supporting cells are the Dieter cells. So these are the Dieter cells. And these Dieter cells, they intervene between the rows of outer hair cells. These are the outer hair cells. So between the outer hair cells, you can see the elongated cells. These are the supporting Dieter cells. Then lateral to the outer hair cells, there are elongated columnar cells. You can see the columnar cells. These cells are called as the Hensen's cells. So Hensen cells are also supporting cells. So Dieter cells, Hensen cells are the supporting cells. And outside to the Hensen cells, there are cuboidal cells, few cuboidal cells, and these cuboidal cells are called as cells of Claudius. So the cuboidal cells are called as cells of Claudius. So supporting cells are the Dieter's cells which intervene between the outer hair cells. Then there are Hensen cells lateral to the outer hair cells, and there are the cells of Claudius. The membrana tectoria. This is the membrana tectoria. It is acellular, protein-rich, gelatinous structure. So membrana tectoria or tectorial membrane is an acellular, protein-rich, gelatinous structure, and it is attached to the vestibular lip of the spiral lamina of modulus. And this membrana tectoria covers the stereocilia of hair cells. And these stereocilia are embedded in the membrana tectoria. So stereocilia, they are embedded in the membrana tectoria. So it is a gelatinous structure, and the stereocilia of hair cells, they get embedded in the membrana tectoria. Now, apart from the tunnel of Corti, we have seen the tunnel of Corti. It is a space between the inner rod cell and the outer rod cell. So apart from this space, there are other spaces also. So between the outer hair cells and the Hensen cells, this space between the outer hair cells and the Hensen cells, this space is called as the outer tunnel, and this outer tunnel is also filled with cortical lymph. Then there is another space between the outer rod cell and the outer hair cells. This space. So the space between the outer rod cell and outer hair cells, this space is called as the space of Newell, and it is also filled with cortical lymph. Okay. So there are spaces between the cells of the organ of Corti, and these spaces are filled with cortical lymph. Now, how the sound waves are transmitted to the internal ear. Now here this is the external ear. This is the external acoustic meatus. This is the tympanic membrane. So this is the external ear. This is the middle ear. This middle ear consists of three ear ossicles, that is the malleus, incus and stapes. And here this is the internal ear. Now the sound waves are collected by the auricle and are conducted through the external acoustic meatus to the tympanic membrane. Then this tympanic membrane gets vibrated. The vibrating tympanic membrane causes vibration in the three ear ossicles, that is the malleus, then incus and then the stapes. So three ear ossicles, they get vibrated. Then the stapes has a foot plate. This foot plate gets vibrated, and once the foot plate of the stapes gets vibrated, this produces a vibration in the perilymph of scala vestibuli. The scala vestibuli, we have seen, it is a part of the cochlear canal. Now in this picture, this is the scala vestibuli and this is the scala tympani. So when the footplate of the stapes gets vibrated, this causes the vibration in the perilymph of the scala vestibuli. Then what happens? The vibrations of the perilymph of scala vestibuli, this is the scala vestibuli, this vibration produces vibration, this vibration causes vibration of the vestibular membrane. Okay, so vibration of the perilymph of the scala vestibuli vibrates the vestibular membrane. Then this vestibular membrane causes vibration of the endolymph, which is present in the cochlear duct. Okay, vibration of the vestibular membrane causes vibration of the endolymph, which is present in the cochlear duct. This vibration of the endolymph vibrates the basilar membrane. Clear? So vibration of the perilymph of the scala vestibuli causes vibration of the vestibular membrane. Vestibular membrane vibration causes vibration of the endolymph of the cochlear duct, and this leads to the vibration of the basilar membrane. Now the organ of Corti, the cells of the organ of Corti, they rest on the basilar membrane. So once the basilar membrane gets vibrated, it produces the vibration of the hair cells. So once the basilar membrane gets vibrated, it causes the movement of the hair cells, the outer hair cells and the inner hair cells. And then the stereocilia of the hair cells, they become bent. So due to the movement of the hair cells, the stereocilia of the hair cells, they bend, and the bending of the stereocilia stimulate the hair cells, and the action potential is induced in the neurons of the cochlear nerve. So we have seen the stereocilia are embedded in the membrana tectoria. Okay, so when there is a movement of the hair cells, these stereocilia, they get bent, and due to the bending of the stereocilia, the hair cells get stimulated and the action potential is induced in the neurons of the cochlear nerve. Now here we have seen at the base of the hair cells there are the synaptic buttons of the afferent and efferent fibers of cochlear nerve. So once these fibers get stimulated, when there is a induction of the action potential, these fibers, they get stimulated. So the peripheral processes of first order sensory neurons ramify around the bases of the hair cells. We have already seen at the bases of the hair cells there are the synaptic buttons. And so the peripheral fibers, the peripheral processes of the first order sensory neuron arise from the bases of the hair cells, the outer and the inner hair cells of the organ of Corti. Each inner hair cell receives connections from 10 spiral ganglion cells. Each inner hair cell, these are the inner hair cells. So each inner hair cells receive the connections from the around 10 spiral ganglion cells, whereas one ganglion cell is connected with more than 10 outer hair cells. Remember, each inner hair cell receives connections from 10 spiral ganglion cells, and one ganglion cell is connected with more than 10 outer hair cells. Okay, so this spiral ganglion is located within the modulus. So this spiral ganglion consists of the cell bodies of first order sensory neurons. So the spiral ganglion, which is located in the modulus, and it consists of the cell bodies of first order sensory neurons. So here again you can see these are the synaptic buttons which are situated at the base of the hair cells, and the fibers of the cochlear nerve arise from the bases of the hair cells. So these are the peripheral processes of first order sensory neurons. So we have seen the spiral ganglion consists of the cell bodies of first order sensory neurons, and these are the peripheral processes which arise from the bases of the hair cells. The axons of the first order sensory neurons, the central processes of the first order sensory neurons, they pass through the modulus and emerge from the tractor spiralis foraminosus, which is situated at the bottom of the internal acoustic meatus. So in this picture you can see these are the peripheral processes. This is the spiral ganglion, and which consists of the cell bodies of the first order sensory neurons, and the axons of the first order sensory neurons pass through the modulus and emerge from the foramen, which is situated at the base of the modulus, and this base of the modulus lies at the bottom of the internal acoustic meatus. So there are many fibers, the many central processes arise from the spiral ganglion, and these fibers join to form cochlear nerve. Clear? So there are many fibers which arise from the hair cells of various many organ of corti, and these central processes of the first order sensory neurons join to form the cochlear nerve, and these fibers, they emerge from these foramina of the modulus. Now, after emerging from the modulus, the cochlear nerve passes through the internal acoustic meatus, and then it enters into the brainstem. It enters into the brainstem at the junction of the pons and medulla. This is the pons and this is the medulla. So it enters in the brainstem at the junction of the pons and medulla, lateral to the facial nerve. Now here this is the facial nerve, and lateral to the facial nerve, this is the 8th cranial nerve, that is the vestibulocochlear nerve. The cochlear part lies lateral to the vestibular part. So the cochlear nerve enters into the medulla at the junction of the pons and the medulla. It lies lateral to the facial nerve. And then this cochlear nerve bifurcates into two parts. So this cochlear nerve bifurcates and enters into the medulla. Now the functional components, if you see the functional components of cochlear nerve, most of the fibers convey spatial somatic afferent sensations for hearing, and there are few efferent fibers of olivocochlear bundle which reach the hair cells to modulate the degree of excitability and to protect the hair cells from the loud sound. So the main functional component is the spatial somatic afferent fibers for hearing. Now we'll see the auditory pathway. Now here this is the spiral ganglion, and this spiral ganglion consists of the cell bodies of first order sensory neurons. Now the peripheral processes of first order sensory neurons, we have seen they arise from the hair cells, and the central processes of the first order sensory neurons join to form the cochlear nerve. So here this is the cochlear nerve, and this cochlear nerve, it bifurcates and enters into the medulla. So this is the section of the medulla. So cochlear nerve bifurcates and enters into the medulla. One branch goes to the dorsal cochlear nucleus, and the other branch goes to the ventral cochlear nucleus. So in the medulla, there are two nuclei, two cochlear nuclei, the dorsal cochlear nucleus and the ventral cochlear nucleus. So one branch goes to the dorsal cochlear nucleus and the other branch goes to the ventral cochlear nucleus. Now in these two nuclei, the fibers relay in these nuclei, And these nuclei, this dorsal and ventrocochlear nuclei, they consist of cell bodies of second order sensory neurons. So from these nuclei, the second order sensory neuron start. Clear? So the first order sensory neuron, the cell bodies are located in the spiral ganglion, which is situated in the modulus. The second order sensory neurons, the cell bodies are located in the dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei, which are situated in the medulla. Okay. So from these nuclei, the second order sensory, the axons of the second order sensory neurons arise, and these fibers, they ascend, and most of the fibers, these fibers ascend and pass medially in the dorsal part of the pons. So these fibers ascend and pass medially in the dorsal part of the pons, and most of the fibers, most of these fibers, they cross to the opposite side, and few fibers remain uncrossed. Most of the fibers arising from the dorsal and ventrocochlear nuclei, they cross to the opposite side. Few fibers remain uncrossed, and the crossed fibers of two sides, from this side as well as from this side, these crossed fibers, they form a trapezoid shaped mass, mass of fibers, and this mass is called as trapezoid body. Okay, so the crossed fibers of which arise from the cochlear nuclei, these fibers from both sides, these fibers, they form trapezoid body. Now within the trapezoid body there are trapezoid nuclei. So few fibers relay in the trapezoid nuclei. Then these fibers, the crossed fibers, they reach up to the superior olivary nucleus. This is the superior olivary nucleus. The few fibers relay in the superior olivary nucleus. Okay. Then the fibers which arise from trapezoid nuclei, few fibers arise from the superior olivary nucleus. So all these fibers, all these cochlear fibers, they ascend up to the midbrain. So the cochlear fibers which cross to the opposite, most of the fibers cross to the opposite side. Few of them relay in the trapezoid nuclei of trapezoid body. Then few fibers relay in the superior olivary nucleus, and then all these fibers, they ascend to the midbrain, and these ascending fibers are called as lateral lemniscus. Okay, so the fibers which these cochlear fibers which arise from the trapezoid nuclei, then few fibers arise from the superior olivary nuclei, and all these fibers ascend towards the midbrain, and these fibers are called as lateral lemniscus. Now in the midbrain, these fibers, the lateral lemniscal fibers, they relay in the inferior colliculus. This is the inferior colliculus. So the lateral lemniscal fibers relay in the inferior colliculus of the midbrain, and from inferior colliculus the fibers go to the medial geniculate body. This is the medial geniculate body via inferior brachium. So the fibers from the inferior colliculus pass to the medial geniculate body via inferior brachium. Now this medial geniculate body represent the third order sensory neuron. So the third order sensory neurons, the cell bodies are located in the medial geniculate body. Now the axons of the third sensory neurons arise from the medial geniculate body, and these axons form the auditory radiation. And these auditory radiation, these fibers pass through the sublentiform part of the internal capsule, and then these fibers reach up to the primary auditory area of the cerebral cortex. And this auditory area is located in the anterior transverse temporal gyrus, that is the area number, Brodmann's area number 41 and 42. Okay, so from the third order sensory neurons arise from the medial geniculate body, and the axons form the auditory radiation, and these fibers go to the auditory area, primary auditory area, area number 41, 42. So this is how the auditory pathway extends from the hair cells of organ of Corti to the auditory area. Now, clinical anatomy. The unilateral lesion of organ of Corti, cochlear nerve or cochlear nuclei will result in ipsilateral hearing loss, and lesion of lateral lemniscus, medial geniculate body or auditory cortex will result in diminution of hearing on both sides, but more on the contralateral side. So we have seen the cochlea, the structure of cochlea and the structure of organ of Corti. This organ of Corti consists of many cells, and the hair cells. This organ of Corti, it is the organ of hearing, and the hair cells, at the base of the hair cells there are the synaptic buttons for the cochlear nerve, and then from the cochlear nerve, from the cochlear, the peripheral processes they relay in the spiral ganglion. This spiral ganglion acts as the first order sensory neurons. Then fibers go to the medial, dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei of the medulla, and they act as a second order sensory neurons. Then the fibers most of the fibers cross to the opposite side. Few fibers remain uncrossed, and then few fibers relay in the trapezoid nuclei, few fibers relay in the superior olivary nuclei, and then these fibers ascend as lateral lemniscus, and then they reach the inferior colliculus. From inferior colliculus, fibers go to the medial geniculate body via inferior brachium, and this medial geniculate body acts as third order sensory neuron, and from medial geniculate body the fibers pass through the sublentiform part of internal capsule, and they form the auditory radiations, and these auditory radiations reach the primary auditory area. So this is all about the auditory pathway. Thank you.